Welcome back. Imagine if New Zealand could completely eradicate homelessness in just 2 years. One expert says it's possible thanks to a program called Housing First, which puts people into a home as a first step. The scheme has been operating in Hamilton and Auckland, and there are hopes it will go further, as Nicola Keane reports.
This is Sonia, and this is her home. 6 months ago, she was living in a car.
That was hard. To watch my son sleep in the back of the car, especially when it was raining, because it would get so muggy in the car and would just get really wet from all the moisture inside the car.
Sonia is one of the early beneficiaries of a program called Housing First. It's set up in Auckland earlier this year, and its proponents say it has the power to end chronic homelessness in New Zealand.
My talk is about the last 25 years of work that I've been involved in with people who are homeless.
Launched in the United States in the 1990s, Housing First has been implemented in parts of Australia, Canada and Europe.
The Housing First model works by reversing the usual sequence of housing and services that is typically offered to people who are homeless. Most programs have taken the approach that people who are homeless need to first seek treatment or some form of psychological or physical stability in order to get housed.
The People's Project in Hamilton was the first in New Zealand to launch Housing First 3 years ago.
Housing First is about giving people the keys and a place to call home, and then starting to provide some of the wraparound support.
And so far, it's working. In 3 years, the People's Project has housed almost 800 people, including 340 children. More than 80% have stayed housed. One of those is Rangatahi. What was the first thing you did when you walked in the door?
I did a karakia, welcomed my visitors, looked around and jumped up like a lunatic, like a crazy one, and go, yeah, it's my house.
After being on the streets for several months, Rangatahi has now lived in her house for more than 2 years. She says it's been the backbone of her recovery.
Made all the difference. Stability as a recovering alcoholic. And even if I wasn't an alcoholic or addict, you still need stability. And my home is my home, and I can go home. And it's a good feeling.
Want to pull these out?
After a life in insecure housing and on the street, Betty and her dog Duchess have had a place to live for 3 years. Housing First provided not only a house, but furniture, gardening equipment, access to treatment programs and support.
You know, because we can't speak to the one for Housing New Zealand thing, so they speak on behalf of us to get a home, you see, because it was hard to talk to the Housing New Zealand or to the real estate to ask more. And when I did ask them, they say we need references. I've never had a reference at all.
The Hamilton participants are now being tracked as part of an Otago University study to measure the effectiveness of Housing First. Associate Professor Neville Pearce is looking at how a house changes the lives of people who have been living on the street and the cost-benefit ratio of getting them into a home.
People who are rough sleeping on the street tend to use the two most expensive beds we have in the New Zealand system. Those are the beds in hospital and the beds in prison. They also are high needs mental health service users, and none of these services work well when somebody is homeless. And our best guess is it's about $65,000 a year to keep somebody homeless in New Zealand. That we have to address the underlying causes of this.
One study in Canada found for every dollar spent on Housing First, the taxpayer saved 96 cents. Dr. Pearce believes the benefits could be higher here, and that's turning heads in Wellington. In March, the Auckland pilot program was launched with almost $5 million provided by the government and council. So far, 221 people have been housed, half of those in West Auckland, and 20% in the city centre. Most of those are going into private rentals, paying a quarter of their income in rent, with the rest covered by subsidies. Sonia Coop is one of the social workers at Vision West. based in Glen Eden.
We take people as they are. That's pretty much the principle, one of the principles. So they don't need to sort out their drug and alcohol addictions before they can come into a house. They don't need to get their life right before we say, okay, right, you're sorted, now you tick the box. It's not like that at all.
After that, Coop and her team work to find a suitable house, furniture and whatever else a family needs to get settled. Sonia is one of those Vision West has placed.
Private landlords don't look at people like me. Even though I pay my rent and I look after the house, it doesn't matter because I'm on a benefit. I feel like I'm discriminated against. I understand that landlords want their money and they want people to look after their houses, and I try and do that all the time. So I didn't understand why I ended up homeless.
Now she's in a house, Sonia is in a skills update course applying for jobs and says she and her family are getting their lives back on track.
We're working through our depression because we got really depressed on the streets and anxiety. So, yeah, depression has gotten better. My son's gotten better. He's not as depressed as he was.
But different clients present different challenges. Come here. Leanne has spent the last few years in and out of prison and in and out of insecure housing. She now lives in the Glen Eden bush with her dog Ruby.
Yes, I went to the warehouse, got me a tent, and then I set myself up. And this is where I am, and me and Ruby, she's a beautiful dog. She's not just a dog, she's my friend, my little dog. And she keeps me safe in the bush here. And I know, at night, especially at night, And so she, I can't do without her.
She's working with Vision West to get counselling and get into a house, but finding a landlord who will accept the both of them has proven difficult.
Yeah, so it's awful being homeless, knowing that you're not having a place of your own. That's what I really, really want is, somebody out there to give me a chance.
Our ultimate goal is to connect them into the community where they live. So, obviously we don't want to be in their lives for the rest of their lives, but we want to support them until they're able to stand on their own 2 feet and hopefully get connected into the community.
And providing that support can take years. In Hamilton, Betty and Rangatahi have found the stress of not knowing where they'll sleep each night has given way to different challenges.
Yes, it's hard because you got to pay bills, No one else is going to pay it, but I'm actually glad because this place this place I live in is cheap for me, it's convenient, and thanks to working income, they take my rent out, they take my power out. What I'm left with, I'm responsible to get my own food. Right? Some weeks it's easy, some weeks it ain't. That's just how life is.
But both are building and rebuilding relationships.
Yeah, we all share. We all help each other in our garden. We help each other when we have problems. We have dinner outside the front there. I cook the kai and they do the cleaning.
On the back of the results in Hamilton and Auckland, the previous National Government pledged more than $16 million to launch Housing First in Tauranga, Wellington and Christchurch. The new Housing Minister, Phil Twyford, says he's keen to expand the program, but is still working on the details. He's also previously pledged to solve homelessness in New Zealand in just 2 terms. But with more than 40,000 people severely housing deprived, including 4,000 sleeping rough, can it be done? And how much will it cost?
We ended rough sleeping in Hamilton in 2 years. If we really put our minds to it and went for this, in Canada they had the vast majority of it gone in 2 years. 2 years would be our challenge to end rough sleeping in New Zealand.
Really, in 2 years, nationwide?
Nationwide. Nobody sleeping on the streets in New Zealand or in cars.
Wow.
Give us 100 million, we'll do it. Give Julie 100 million. She's already shown you how it can be done.
And no matter how much it costs, for those whose lives have been turned around, it's priceless.
Yes, they are my family. They're not just my family. They're the family of the Hamilton Streeties. That's who we are. That's who they are. Without them, they didn't, you know, who would we have? They believed in us. And not just me, but everyone else.